believe it's about to kick in. Hello, everybody. This is always like that awkward that pause of like, is the event actually on? Are people actually watching? I believe we are live. Welcome back, everyone, to Ave Explores Live. We are thrilled to have you. Yeah, there we are. I am pumped. I am so excited for this new season of Ave Explores, where we are going to be talking about Catholic family life. I'm the host of Ave Explores, both the podcast and the Ave Lives, Katie Prejean McGrady. You're probably sick of hearing my voice if you listen to our podcast because we've been dropping a lot of episodes lately. But this new series that we're starting, it starts tomorrow, actually. So go to avemariapress.com and sign up to get all of the emails straight to your inbox. This series is one that's near and dear to my heart because talking about Catholic families is really, I think, critically important in the culture right now. Talking about the ways that Catholic families are different and the unique versions of Catholic family that exist both within the church and within the world, the ways that everyone exists within a family, whether it's a family of their own making, a biological family, an adoptive family, a family of community, and really how families can affect and change the neighborhood, affect and change workplaces, affect and change families outside of their own immediate gathering. I mean, just think about the fact that during the time of COVID-19, which we are all very much in and have been in since March, we've all kind of been stuck with our families and have maybe learned our families in a new way. And so this whole series will be unpacking and exploring, well, what does it mean to be married? And what does it mean to be dating and discerning and figuring out what marriage looks like? And here's some practical marriage advice. And we'll talk about what it means to be a holy family. How do you pray with your kids? What does it mean to enthrone your family to the Sacred Heart? How can the liturgy guide what you do as a family? We'll talk about what happens when things don't go so great within the family context. What happens when you suffer a loss? What happens when a child wants to leave? What happens when mom or dad has to solo parent or single parent because of an unhealthy marriage? What does it look like when we confront challenges and we have to carry the cross? And then, of course, we're going to talk about vocation, which, you know, the marriage is the normal vocation, so to speak. It's the call of most people. But how within the context of marriage, how within the context of the priesthood, of the religious life, are we living our vocations with a family mindset? So we've got so many awesome things coming up in this series, and we're kicking it off tonight with two of my favorite people in the world of Catholic ministry. I've kind of known them from the peripheries. I met their son before I met them, actually. Their college student walked up to me when he was in high school at a conference, and he said, "Hey, do you know?" And he rattled off the name of a friend of mine from college that was his English teacher. And I said, "Yes, I do." And we chatted a little bit, and I had him bring a copy of my book to his English teacher back at his high school. And then I got to know his parents. And Kathryn and Scott Whitaker are joining us tonight to share a little bit about their marriage, to share a little bit about who they are, their date night priority that they have that I so deeply admire, how they keep the house running with 6 kids. So as you're tuning in, as you're joining in, we're going to welcome the Whitakers onto the show. Let me have them turn their video on and see what happens. There they are. Hey, Kathryn and Scott.
Hey, everybody.
Thank you for joining. It worked. That was the first time we've ever done that, everybody. So y'all have been married for 24 years. You've got 6 kids from 6 up to 19, almost 20. So a kindergartner up to a college student. You're native Texans, you're Aggies, which I'm going to forgive. Of those 6 kids, 4 of them are teenagers. Definitely want to hear about that. Just introduce yourselves. Tell us a little bit about yourselves while my microphone falls into my face.
So, yeah, we met on a blind date, so that'll be fun to talk about.
Yeah.
And we met at Texas A&M and then got married. I converted to Catholicism, and then we moved to Iowa and Indiana and then came back to Texas. And Scott's a fundraiser. I'm the keeper of the ship here at the home, sometimes right when I feel like it, and Insta story in my closet.
That's true. Gotta hide from all those kids.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, I have the best job in the world because I get to leave the house every day.
But you come back.
Yeah,
So.
I do come back sometimes.
You hide in the garage before you walk in. At the end of the day, brace yourself.
I just got a couple more phone calls to make. I'll be in a minute. No problem. No, it's great to be on here. And so yeah, we've been married for 24 years and, just busy, active life, as a Catholic family. And I think just trying to figure it out along the way a little bit, like everybody else, and maybe doing a few experiments and seeing what sticks as we go through. So
some are successful and some not so
not
successful.
Well, and that's what I want to talk about tonight. I mean, you're both pretty open and honest. Kathryn, your little closet chats are always a comfort because I think I'm not the only mom hiding from my kid right now.
Nope.
And you've got 6 of them, so you have a lot to hide from. But yet can still love being a mom, even in talking honestly. So tell me how you met on that blind date at Texas A&M all those years ago.
You knew I was going to make you say it again.
Of course, I had to at some point.
Well, I was in a sorority and we had a date party and I needed a date. So I reached out to a friend of mine and she said, hey, I know this really cute boy. He has blue eyes. And I was like, sold. And at Texas A&M, so we have the Corps Cadets, which is like a military institution at the university. So he was in a uniform. So he had these big old biceps and these big blue eyes. I was like, yes. So
yeah, I still have one of the two, so it's okay.
So yeah, then we sort of like went on a few dates in the fall and then didn't really start getting serious until that spring.
Okay.
And yeah.
I think what sold the deal was I took her on a date to see George Strait in concert on New Year's Eve. And so
that was the first date?
No.
That was, I was going to say, if that was your first date.
No.
But that's what I really
it was kind of like the first real thing.
The non-blind.
This is real.
The non-blind, yes.
Yeah. Were we moving ahead here? Yes. So
that was a good one. But then the best date, if you don't mind me telling you,
Please.
Figured out, so he got the facilities manager at Texas A&M who manages the football field. So he blindfolded me and had his buddies pick me up and they drove me around town to get me disoriented. And when they dropped me off, I was standing on the 50-yard line of the football field. It was just the two of us at Texas A&M on the football field, and he had dinner, and the whole night we ran football drills. It was awesome.
That's great.
That's so Texan.
And you went,
so
didn't
fun.
you take a wedding photo on the football field? I feel like I saw that recently.
That's why, actually.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're diehards.
It's hanging in my office, her in her wedding dress on Kyle Field. And the best part is everyone that walks by, they look at that and take a double take and say, did you get married there? And I said,
was that allowed?
You know, we got married in a church, even though I know Kyle Field is considered a cathedral.
It is.
Holy experience, but
SEC football is a religious experience in some sense. I love that you immediately knew, Kathryn, I like this guy based off of what you saw. Scott, how did you know that you wanted to keep pursuing Kathryn? And I apologize if you can hear my dog in the background. Something's going on outside my door, and I'm not quite sure my husband has a handle on it. So if I have to get up real quick, just keep going.
Yeah. I thought she was adorable. She was cute. She was dressed very well. She was in a sorority, which was kind of intriguing. I didn't know much about sorority, so I thought that was interesting. But outside of that, it took, I'm a slow learner. It took me, a few months to try to figure it out. But we just got to hanging out, and she was a lot of fun, a ton of energy and excitement. And so it was a lot of fun. So I think we kind of bonded on that early on, just really enjoying each other and having a good time and spending time out at Texas A&M. There's so many different things you can do and activities and engage in different types of programs. And so just being able to kind of spend some time with each other through that, it was a lot of fun. It was good.
And we were both small town kids too, at a big university. So there was a lot of familiarity, even though he was Catholic and I wasn't, but there was some sameness there that kind of drew us together.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about that. So you converted. What was kind of the impetus? Was it, I want to marry this guy? We've discerned that we want to be together, but I've got to be Catholic. What was that story?
I would like to tell you, Katie, that it was this super religious, very well
Holy
thought
Spirit,
out. Basically, I just didn't want, we talked about, we didn't want our kids going to 2 different churches. And because I grew up going to a bazillion different churches, I've been baptized 3 times, even though I know the first one counts.
It's stuck all times.
Yeah, all the times it's stuck. I don't know. It was just like, okay, sure, I'll join another church. What, do I get baptized? What do I do? And Scott's like, actually, it's a little bit more involved than that. But I was confirmed an hour before our rehearsal dinner. And so my first communion was actually my wedding day.
Wow.
So that's another story for another day. But it was, I don't know. I think I did it because I was like, sure, I'll join. And then over time, I started really falling more and more in love with the church. And Scott was well catechized. He could answer my questions, which I found, I don't know, sort of attractive because I'm like, every time I ask this guy questions about the faith, he knows the answers.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
Some leadership there, right? Like he was able to kind of walk you through that. I love that answer that you didn't want your, like it came down to, well, we're going to have kids and we don't want them. Not that you're confused if you're in a mixed marriage in that regard with religion necessarily, but that was a priority from the start. I love that. How is that translated then? And this is kind of jumping a little bit ahead, but I think it's a decent segue to ask, how is faith a priority with your 6 kids? I mean, I met your oldest son at a youth conference, so I know you're sending them to things. But from 6 to 19, that's such a range. How can you make faith a priority with such a huge age gap? 4 teenagers at home, I'm sure asking a ton of questions. What are some of the things y'all do?
Yeah, I just think from the very beginning of our marriage, before we had kids, it was, we're going to mass every Sunday, no matter what, no matter where we are, if we were to take trips together. So absolutely, Eucharist and mass was just, that was it. It's non-negotiable. And so our kids from the very beginning have gone to mass every single week, oftentimes during the day, during a weekly mass and so forth. So that was a big priority for us. And so I think that was something that really started us off the right way. And then we obviously, Catholic school is very important. We wanted our kids to go to a Catholic school. I've worked for the church for a long time, so I kind of live and breathe church all the time. And I don't know. So it's not that we're just this extraordinary pious family necessarily. I think, but I think people really know that we're Catholic and we go to church and it's non-negotiable. It's a very important part of our life. And so I think just kind of modeling that for our kids was really instrumental in kind of how we live our faith.
Yeah, and I'll say too, like there was a nice melding between Scott's Catholic upbringing and my Protestant upbringing. Is for me, youth group was a non-negotiable because that was super formative for me. So when it came time for our kids to enter the middle school and high school years, I wanted them engaged in youth programs because that saved me in middle school and high school and helped me develop like an actual relationship with Jesus. And so that's where I came from. It is Scott had, I think, the formation and the tradition, and I wanted the relationship. And I think you put those two together. I mean, and Katie, they're full of kids with free will. So they're going to make choices that we don't always agree with, but our hope is that we would build that foundation and also not be afraid to send them into the world and into places where the people around them were not primarily Catholic. And maybe that was my upbringing, but I was like, I'm not scared of Protestants. They're actually kind of cool. I love them. And I love people that aren't Protestant, so I wanted my kids to be formed enough in their faith to say like, I'm Catholic, but I can also enter into other spaces and be respectful, but also be loving and not lose my faith.
Yeah. I mean, Tommy and I have had that conversation many times. I was a Catholic school kid. He was a public school kid. He's like, I feel like I had to learn how to defend my faith. And I was like, yeah. And I feel sometimes like faith was just kind of easy because it was just always around. And then all of a sudden, if it is tested. So finding that balance and kind of recalibrating is really important. Scott, you said the word non-negotiable, right? Like this is what we do. We're on vacation. We're going to mass. It's Sunday. Even if you're in a bad mood, we're going to mass. Unless you're sick or it's a
Which
pandemic.
is always the case.
Right. I mean, I remember being 15 years old. I'm 31 and I still am sometimes in a bad mood and trying to get the toddler out the door. But I think that's something that I'd really like to dig in on, non-negotiables within the family. Almost kind of like a rule of life within the family. Not that we're monks and we have to create a book, but kids and parents and even grandparents or family friends, when they walk into the Whitaker home, what are some of the non-negotiables? Are y'all like a shoes off at the door kind of family? Or y'all we're always going to have queso on the table kind of family? Like what are all the way down to like, okay, well, we say this prayer as a family every night. This is how we operate when it comes to cell phones. Like that's always a huge debate of teen parents. Do your kids have access to the internet? And what does that look like? And can you read their iMessages? So tell me, what are some of the Whitaker non-negotiables that you think other families can learn from?
Well, in our family, you have to earn your privileges. They're not rights here. Like you have to earn things. So if you want a cell phone, you have to earn that. They don't earn that until high school. We pray every night at the dinner table, but we also make time to spend one-on-one time with our kids to kind of help them develop a good, decent prayer life. And what does that look like? It's not always just rote prayer. Like, what does that look like? I think that for us, non-negotiables are when you come into our family, like you're part of the family, man. Like you got to come in and like you got to meet all the people, So if it's someone that you're sort of, now that our guys are a little older and they're kind of sweet on somebody, I was like, not that, I guess we don't really do boyfriend, girlfriend. How do we feel about that? We'll talk about that later. Anyway, but yeah, so like when you have, the next one, but when you have someone come in, we want them to be a part of our family. So that means sitting at our dinner table, putting our dishes in the dishwasher, and then sitting around and having a conversation like our kids know how to talk to adults, because it's not like just we're separated. We want that to be a big part of who they are. And I think I just want them to know that they are a contributing member of our family. So it's not like mom does these things, dad does these things, and the kids are separate. Like we all pitch in. So we call them a citizen of the household duties, your COH duties. So your citizen of the household duties mean that you make your bed, that you put up your dishes, that you fold your laundry, and that you take care of things. Like mom is not the maid, she's the mom. And, dad is the same way. So you are a contributing member of the family, which means that when they go to church, we're requiring them, usually I guess it's later in elementary school. So they're required to volunteer for some sort of ministry within the church. And they've all chosen something different, but we want them to know if we're going to develop community here, then we want them to know what community looks like when they go to church.
Yeah, I love that. I especially love the idea that contributing member of the house, we're citizens together in this little ecosystem that we've developed. And when one person leaves, so I imagine when your oldest went off to college, that ecosystem kind of shifts and recalibrates a little bit, or comes back in the middle of a pandemic and has to calibrate.
Or stays forever.
Now you've got 5 of them. And never leaves. Or you've got 5 of them at the kitchen table. How do you two then find time for each other with 6 kids and managing this citizenship and making sure that they're invested and involved and loved and cared for? I mean, I have one on the way, and I'm already now stressed about, okay, am I giving her enough attention? She's acting out. She needs mommy. Like how, and then thinking at the end of the night, my husband's just getting the leftovers. Like he's just getting, throw an Office episode on. I'm exhausted. I don't want to talk to you. I'm touched out for the day. How do you two prioritize each other as citizens of the household?
Yeah, you have to work at it every day.
Amen.
This is not something where you just kind of happens and I come home from the office and we just do. No, it takes work, and it takes energy, and it takes deep prayer and commitment to each other. And so it's a ton of work to commit to doing that. And I will say this is important, I think, for a lot of maybe like yourself, new parents, where you think the world is crashing in on you every day because you have small children. And it's hard to believe, but we were there too. And it felt like the world was crushing us at that moment in time. But then eventually they grow up, they get older, and they start to take greater responsibility around the house. And so that kind of allows us a lot more flexibility to be able to say, hey, we're going to go take a walk around the block, just the 2 of us. We'll be back in about 30 minutes. And
clean up the kitchen while we're gone.
Yeah.
And hopefully the house is not burned down when we come back.
Yeah.
But it does allow you to do that. So I think it's very important that you find moments at those different seasons. When they're young, it's easy. Put them to bed at 7:30. You're done. You're sitting on the couch, and it's like, this is great. Hey, I'm hanging out here. I'm just going to have a nice conversation. That's great. Then they become teenagers. And you're like, will you please go to bed? Why are you still awake? So you have to really work hard at it every single day. And it's in marriage, and this is a commitment every day. You have to really get up every day and recommit, rededicate yourself to it.
And I think too, I mean, our 5th one was born premature, and about 6 months after he was born, we actually went to marriage counseling because he had a lot of diagnoses. We knew the statistics. We were really struggling. And if there's anybody out there listening, counseling can save your marriage. And in fact, I think it's Edmund Mitchell that says this. A lot of times he'll say the best gift that you can give your spouse is a counseling session. Like give that to them even when your marriage is in a healthy place, because it's good to get into the habit of communicating and saying, hey, that's a barrier or that's a struggle and we got to work through it. It was the single best thing we ever did for our marriage. And it was because at the urging of Archbishop Amon, who's now in New Orleans, he was an advocate of that, and we would have never considered it had we not seen his example. So it's not a sign of weakness. It is a sign that you care about your marriage.
Yeah. To speak my truth, that's an Office reference that Scott's going to get when he gets to season 9.
What season
I
is
love that. I love that because I mean it's just like therapy. Like if there's something, sometimes having that third party or that outside source can just point out, okay, you're carrying, and it's different than spiritual direction. It's different than having a priest come into your home. I mean, that's a great form of counseling as well, but it's somebody who's their whole job is to help you as a couple analyze maybe some wounds, maybe some past hurts, even some ways that you fight. And I mean, married couples know precisely what to say to cut because you know each other so well.
We call those discussions at our house.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and Tommy and I mean, it's 150 days in quarantine. Now he's finally back to school. Praise the Lord. But in that 150 days, we realized very quickly that if we were getting tense with each other, Rose would just like one of two things. She would scream. Like she would scream at us as we were like arguing, or she would just walk away and shut down. And so we realized, okay, we have to figure out how to do this in a healthy manner over little things and big things to not adversely affect her, who's clearly absorbing this. So we, read all the parenting books about that. But right. I've learned from you two, just again on Instagram, but even in the course of this conversation, making that time for each other is so important. Y'all do that with regular date nights. Tell me why. I mean, you can take a walk, but like y'all get in the car and go somewhere. Like you spend money, you take the time to get, put on something besides a t-shirt. Like, tell me why. Because as the introvert of the family, I'm fine with just ordering food in and sitting on the couch and watching, another Parks and Rec episode. Tell me about night philosophy.
Well, first of all, he's super cute. So I was like, let's just be clear on that. Like, I love that it sort of makes me feel like we're dating again. Like when we would get ready and like, sometimes he'll text me even the day, like, I'm looking forward to tonight, like back all the things that we used to do when we were back in our courtship or whatever. And I don't know, it makes me feel loved. And I love that he feels like it's a sign of caring, I guess. And I mean, when you have teenagers, so now we have free babysitting. So that makes it way more cost effective. So there's definitely creative ways to do that. But I love that it makes me feel so very loved by Scott when he makes the effort to like figure out the restaurant. Like he's, researching all the restaurants in Austin that we haven't been to yet. And it's fun.
Yeah. And I think as a man, my natural tendency is to be, a provider, a caregiver and to lead my family. And so I think this is something that I take, very seriously. And we live in Austin and the food is great. Yep. And you can go to these places and there's either food trucks or of course, we like barbecue. You probably heard that a little bit. So, yeah. So it's fun. And it's exciting. It also, I think it forces us to kind of remove ourselves from this house, this home environment, just for 30 minutes or an hour or whatever it is that we're doing. It gives us a chance to really think about life. Think about, hey, what are you doing? What are you thinking about right now? What's on your mind? I mean, and I kind of joked earlier. I mean, I get to leave and go to the office during the day, and sometimes I come back, but she's here every day. And so I think it's important that she takes some time away from here and be an adult for a little bit. And so we enjoy that time together. We spend a lot of time talking about life and dreaming about life and dreaming about what the next phase is going to look like for us. And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Actually, every December, I wish I could take credit for this idea, but my friend Stephanie Weiner, she and her husband do a dream date. And so at the end of the year, we like dream about and it's all the different categories and fun, fitness, food, faith, whatever. And you kind of dream like, what did we accomplish this year? What are our dreams and goals? And then this year we started saying, what do we want for our children? And so we had dream dates with each one of our children. Oh, cool. And I think it just allows us to find out what they really are passionate about, which helps us be better parents and helps them trust us more. And so they communicate with us more. So it's sort of an ulterior motive when you're trying to break down some walls with your teenager, like find out what they love. And so I think that's what dates allow us to do. And I don't want to discourage anyone that says, hey, I can't either afford to go out or we don't have kids who are old enough. Then, like Scott said, put them to bed or find ways. Like sometimes we date on the back porch. So we're not far, but we're close enough. So those were seasons, right? So every marriage has a season. We're just in a season where we can go eat at a food truck. but
Yeah.
you may not be in that season.
Yeah, no, and that's, well, creativity. And I think almost it makes a date better when you have to think outside the box a little bit. As we're about to pivot to our next little segment or topic, I want to encourage people, if they've got questions, they can put them in the Facebook comments or the YouTube chat, and they will be texted to me, and we can ask the Whitakers whatever's on your mind. Above board, of course. We're not going to invade your home. I'm loving everything you're saying about your non-negotiables, about the citizenship of your home, about taking the time for each other. How did COVID, and I think it's a relevant moment because we know that this is now part of our world. There's the before times and there's now. How did all of that very well placed dreaming and planning just get blown up when your kids were home, when your son came back from college, when you were working from home, when travel got cut off? What does the Whitaker house look like the past 6 months, and what are you trying to do for the next few months?
Well, it looks terrible because Mom dialed it in. I was like, you don't need to worry about school. I had like completely metamorphosed. Scott was coming. He's like, who are you? I'm like, it's fine. So
kids, don't listen to your mom.
Yeah.
Exactly
Well, y'all watched the Marvel movies like in the first month, because you were posting at like 1 a.m. I was like, she is never like. It makes sense that I have a toddler who's out of bed. Why is she awake?
I was talking to all these moms nursing their babies. I'm like, we're still up watching Marvel.
Oh yeah.
So that was back when we all thought it was going to last a couple of weeks. We're like, this is super fun. Spring break extended 7 months. So it was brutal. I mean, there were definitely, I struggled a lot, some of our kids, and they all would struggle at different times. And it was hard. I don't want to paint. There have absolutely been some beautiful things, but it was hard. And the fact that we couldn't leave the house. On the other side of that, I was no longer the bad guy, and neither was Scott. Like the fact that you couldn't play with your friends, couldn't go out, like they couldn't be mad at us anymore. And that almost took like a layer of anger away. And we actually had some really beautiful conversations with our kids. And then we just enjoyed the perpetual spring break summer. We did go on a big national park tour, and that was socially distant, and it was beautiful and so unbelievably amazing for our family bonding. I mean, I can't even describe how beautiful that was. So, I mean, I think we navigate a pandemic. We started doing it week by week. So we just get to Friday. So that's our goal. Let's just get to Friday. Let's take it 1 week at a time, because to think about there not being a football season is too hard for us to imagine right now. Yeah. So we're just going to get to Friday. So that was a good, I think, lesson that we learned in pandemic.
Yeah. Take it day by day. How is this fall looking for you guys? I mean, I know you've got 5 virtual learners in the house. I mean, how are you juggling that?
Yeah.
Are you?
Well, the good news is we're in a better place than we were in May. So
for sure.
We're moving in the right direction. Now, I think what this has taught, at least me, and I do think both of us, is that we're leaning on each other more and allowing ourselves to be flexible and make mistakes, and to know that nobody really has this figured out. Don't watch the news, whatever you do. Just stay away from it. Focus on each other, focus on your family, and we're gonna get through this week to week, and we're gonna reevaluate each time, and we'll see where it goes. And I think kind of falling back on what we've done is to be able to maybe take some time every now and then for the two of us, take a step back and say, how are you doing, first of all? And then secondly, what's going on? What can we do? What's necessary as this week kind of comes online? We don't know. There's a probability that we're going to have some college kid back in this house with us. And so who knows? We'll have to take that.
No, I don't.
We love you. We love you, Will.
No, what I meant was, I talked to him today, and I was telling him, I said, just don't make dumb choices. Like, don't make colossally dumb ones.
Yeah,
I know
don't go to a party.
Right. Yeah. Fortunately, he's in the Corps. That's a little bit trickier for him to do. But I said, just remember, we don't want you home. And he was like, I don't want to come home. Like, I want you to be in college. I want you to live this life that you worked really hard for and that you went off into. And so, I don't know, I think pandemic and digital learning is teaching us to apologize to our kids faster when we screw it up, and to ask for their forgiveness. And it's okay for them to see us mess up, but then how are we helping them? Like, it's okay to feel your feelings. It's okay to be frustrated, but then how are we going to navigate through that? And it's been nice to see them sort of, I have older ones like tutoring some of the, I'm like, can you work on sophomore geometry? Because no. So but it's a nice thing. It's just not always beautiful. They're not always beautiful to each other, but sometimes they do things like that. And I'm like, all right, so we're going to get through this. So yeah, I mean, I think we started this year with like, all right, we can do this. Let's put our best foot forward here. And we only got dropped from classes 4 times today on the Wi-Fi. So
I saw one kid was in the wrong homeroom this morning, and I about died laughing. I was like, how does that even happen? Did he just have the wrong link? Like I think every parent is in that boat. I think every college student is just like, I don't know where to go.
We have been laughing about that all day. The teacher was like, we don't even have a kid named Jeremy. She's like, Jeremy, you're in 6th grade now, and you're in the 5th grade. Like,
this kid is not Jeremy.
That's so
great.
Funny.
Well, and I loved on our podcast last week with Jeannie Gaffigan. She made a hysterical. I think she's funnier than Jem. You heard it here first, folks. But I mean, he doesn't know me. But she said, she's like, it's not like this is a reality show where somebody's going to pop in and be like, haha, like, let's see how clean your floors are. Like, let's see how well mannered your children are. Like, it's okay that we're all kind of struggling, but at the root of that is hopefully a couple that is leaning on each other, or a family unit of some conglomeration, that you're a parent, somebody raising kids, grandparents that are helping with virtual learning because mom is working during the day. Like that's going to be our reality. If Rose's school shuts down, my mom's going to have to help out so I can keep doing my job. That there's people we can lean on. So I guess here at the end, I want to ask, what is your recommendation maybe for different, and this is kind of out of left field, but the person that might be watching this or is watching the rebroadcast and hears all these things, it's like, man, I really want that with my spouse. I really want that with my kids. I want that with my neighborhood. What would you say to them to encourage them to maybe take that first step, to build some deeper community, to lean on people a little more? What's your word of encouragement to them?
I'm going to let you go first. I was hoping that you'd have something on.
Sorry, I kind of sprung that on you. It was not in the show notes, guys.
I don't know. The thing that just popped to my mind first, Katie, is I think but a couple of things. One is to be patient and kind with yourself and be forgiving with yourself, knowing that this is a particular journey that we're going through this season. So it's okay. Give yourself permission to not be too hard on yourself. Give yourself permission to do that. The second thing that I think that I would say is that we've talked about this quite a bit. I know you've written about it quite a bit, but I think it's okay for you to actually just cut out the extracurricular activities, cut them all out, and almost do what maybe I would call a family reset. Come back, get close together as a family, play dominoes, play some games, just really kind of unpack family life again and do a reset. And it's okay if you missed soccer this year. You're going to be okay. It'll be fine. Give yourself permission to do that. So I think that's a couple of things that kind of come to my mind if I'm thinking about how do I go about doing this and get to know other people and get closer to my spouse. Well, I got to cut out all the noise first of all.
Yeah,
and I say to the moms, dads too, I want to just leave this on the moms. I think it's really important when you're developing community that you connect with women who are a few years ahead of you in the mothering game, 2 or 3 years ahead, and then a few that are 2 or 3 years behind, so that you can be the mentor to the ones who are behind you, and you can cling to the hope and the light at the end of the tunnel to the ones that are ahead of you. Because we tend, and I think pandemic has only magnified this, that we're living this very individual, cloistered life. And while there are some beautiful things about that, we were meant to live in community. So I think it's important to, and maybe right now that's a Zoom call, or maybe that's a socially distant driveway party, where you have some girlfriends over and you all sit in the driveway with a big old fan in Texas and some libations, and you just talk about, all right, so how are we navigating through this? Or I'm struggling with this and I'm finding life with my girlfriends who are sort of in the same season that we are. We have a few families who are big and wide like we are, and they are saving us. So I think you have to think about what are our options, knowing that if you can't have a dinner party or you can't gather like you would normally do, find another way, but don't cut yourself off from the world, because it's not healthy and it's not of God. Like, God asks us to live in community and to help each other. So it's not okay to just fix your family or focus on your family. We're called to do that with all the families in our community. So those are a few things that I think we'd probably suggest.
Yeah, I mean, Henry Nouwen, no man is an island, no family is living in a castle with a moat around it. And if you are, I want to visit the moat, but I also like
Yes.
please leave the castle and come share. You know, we're all Southerners in this room. Hurricane season is always the one where I feel like our community pulls together, and COVID has kind of felt like just this prolonged hurricane that we're all walking through. And I love that we need to lean on the people around us who have that experience. We need to get back to basics as a family. I think we've gotten some great feedback in the chat. No questions, because you're kind of answering all of them ahead of time. But tons of people saying this is awesome, and thank you so much. And we're so grateful for the time. Where can we find you guys? We're going to tag you on Instagram tomorrow when we post this on IGTV. But right now, where can people go follow y'all?
So you can find teamwhitaker.org is the blog. Scott doesn't care about that, but
he blogs nightly.
You do. You care. You just don't really care. So it's K Whitaker 96 on social media for me.
And Scott Whitaker 95 on Instagram and Twitter.
Cool. Are those your graduation years?
They are.
Yeah.
I'm not to age you. I'm thinking that's when The Lion King came out, and that's when Toy Story came out. Because those are the movies I went and saw in person. And I just dated myself. But I think we could still all hang out. I have my drink. We could cheers to tonight. But thank you guys so much for being here. Everybody's going to go find you on social media. I'm going to kick you out of the Zoom so I can wrap this all up. But thank you all for being on here tonight, Kathryn.
Thanks, Katie. Bye.
And I say I'm going to kick you out of the room. There we go. Now I'm going to do it. Yeah. Awesome. They were wonderful, right? Kathryn and Scott are a phenomenal couple that I think gives us a remarkable example of what it means to prioritize each other, what it means to prioritize conversation with your kids. I don't know what it just really means to keep things straight. Now, they would be the first to tell you they're not perfect. They'd be the first to tell you it's a constant recalibration. We're figuring things out. I think every family is in that boat, not just in COVID times, but in regular, whatever that means, times. You know, just the other day, I lost my cool with my almost 3-year-old because she did something. I mean, it was accidental. She wasn't maliciously pushing markers off of the table. She would just set them back down and they would roll off. And then she'd ask me to go get them for her. And after like the 3rd or 4th time, I was annoyed and I kind of snapped at her, and I could see her little face drop because mommy yelled about markers. And I kind of caught myself that was not a thing to get mad at. And I could just act like nothing happened. I'm the mom, I'm in charge. Or I could say, I'm sorry, and sit down next to this almost 3-year-old and say, mommy messed up. Mommy lost her temper. Mommy's really sorry. Can you forgive me? And there's nothing quite like hearing a toddler say, I forgive you, and realizing that you've reconciled in this moment where you failed and where they get to see that you failed. You know, I think as we launch this new Catholic Family series, as we've talked about what it means to prioritize your spouse, maybe sometimes we have to go to our spouse or the person we're dating or the person we're engaged to or our roommate or best friend, whatever close relationship we might have that's on our mind right now, and say, I'm sorry, can you forgive me? Maybe that's with our kids, sitting down with them and dreaming, like Kathryn and Scott said, or sitting down with them and really trying to figure out, okay, how are you doing? And what do you need from me? And how can I love you better? How can I help you more? Catholic family life, when it's a witness to the world, is not just a witness of everything's hunky-dory and we love the Lord and rah-rah, shish kumbah, Jesus, nothing will ever harm us. It's oftentimes a portrait and a snapshot of struggles and pains and getting back up again, but keeping those priorities straight and trying to get back to basics. And, Kathryn and Scott said a lot. I would encourage you to go back and rewatch this. The recording, of course, will be available on our Ave Facebook page, our Ave Maria Press YouTube, our Ave Maria Press Vimeo account. And tomorrow we'll have it up on our IGTV channel over on Instagram. You can find us at Ave Maria Press. This, of course, just as a friendly reminder, is part of our entire Ave Explores series, which starts tomorrow. So you can go to AveMariaPress.com right now. Sign up, give us your email, and you'll get the email tomorrow and every Wednesday after for the next couple of weeks, 4 weeks, I believe. It'll have podcast episode information. It'll have future live kind of previews. It'll have the recording in there, articles from different contributors who are unpacking this whole theme for us. Really excellent content. The dream of Ave Explorers is to help faithful everyday Catholics go a little deeper in their faith, to help you learn more about a topic that we think is relevant. In this current moment, families are relevant and important and needed in this world. And how all of us can maybe participate in the family in which we're born, the family that we are raising, the family that we create on our own due to our life circumstances, whatever family looks like for you. We want to encourage that. We want to encourage holiness within that family. Thanks for tuning in tonight. We hope you subscribe to the entire series. Next week, we'll be back with 3 excellent guests. It'll be a lot of fun. Think of it a little bit like a talk show. My friends Ryan, Jessica, and Chanel, and we will be talking about the single life, talking about what it means to find fruitfulness, to embrace sacrifice, to recognize the goodness of the single life, whether it's a quote unquote temporary state in life because you're waiting to start dating, or you've discerned that this is your call to remain single. So stay tuned for that next week. We'll be back next Tuesday at 7:00 right here on Ave Maria Press's Facebook, YouTube, and Vimeo pages. And again, of course, you'll be able to watch all the rebroadcasts afterwards, especially on IGTV. Thanks for tuning in tonight. We hope you